it's me, Mrs. Morrison. I thought since we couldn't be together in the Rainbow Room, we could be together here. So maybe every day you could check in with me and I'll read you a story, or maybe we could do an activity and then you can share it with your grown-ups. Put on your thinking cap, get ready to work. Hi everyone, it's me, Mrs. Morrison, back with another episode on YouTube, our virtual remote classroom learning from home all together. So yesterday, you might remember, we did the calendar and it was our first day back after spring break. Well, guess what? Today's our second day back after spring break. And I'm checking what we did yesterday, even though I had a little bit of a problem with it. If you remember, it was kind of funny in the morning. We said that, yesterday was Sunday. It was Monday and tomorrow will be Tuesday. It's a new day, guys. So I'm going to move these on down. And I'm going to tell you, today it is Tuesday. Yesterday was Monday. And tomorrow is going to be Wednesday. So I'm going to move my yellow Post-it note over to the number. Ooh, look at this number, would you? It's a 1 and a 4. I'm going to see if I can count all the way to this number. I'm going to touch each umbrella until I get to this number. You count with me too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, wow. Here it is. Today it is Tuesday, April 14th. 2020, and we have a green umbrella today. Yesterday we had our Post-it note on a pink umbrella. Looks like tomorrow our pattern will be back to pink. I can't wait to see what happens. Let's take a second and check our weather. I'm going to turn our calendar around, and we know on the back we have our weather graph, and it looks like we've had 4 days of data that we've collected, even though we had more days than that in April, but we only do them on the days that we talk on YouTube. So today we're going to check again, and yesterday it was a terrible, awfully rainy day, and then all of a sudden the sun came out at dinner time. It was crazy. So I'm going to take this down. It's not raining yet today, but it is super cloudy. So I'm going to mark a cloudy day on our calendar, and the next number I'm going to write, I've written 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, the next number is 5. It's down with a belly and a hat. Number 5. It's our 5th day of data for the month of April, and I'm going to change my words. It says our season is spring, which is still true. Our season goes all the way until the next season happens, and then it will be summer, but right now it's still spring. So today it is going to be our weather. We're going to call it cloudy and cool. Let's see if I can find it. Windy, foggy, hot. Nope, not hot. Not rainy today, I hope. Today it's cloudy and cool. The season is spring and the weather is cloudy and cool. So our story lab for today is this card. This is a different one. You might remember it's called Story Extension. So we're going to listen to this whole story and we're going to think, if you were the author or the illustrator and you were going to write a new page, what would happen at the end of the story that could make it different or longer or add something to it? So this is Story Extensions, and you're going to listen to the whole long story. It's a long one today. And think of what would happen next. I'm going to put our card here. See if it'll stand. I'm going to turn on our rainbow light. Maybe. That way we know it's time for our story. Here's one of my favorite books. It's called Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. And this book was written by Judy Barrett and drawn by Ron Barrett. They have the same last name. I wonder what that tells me about them. They could be brother and sister. They could be life partners. They could be a family. Let's get into it. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we each could eat, and Grandpa was doing the flipping. Well, seconds later, something flew through the air, headed toward the kitchen ceiling, and landed right on Henry. Look what it is. After we realized the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tall-tale bedtime story he'd ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 smaller ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food that they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Everything that everyone ate came from the sky. Oh, whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas, and sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way they'd always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerators in case they were hungry in between meals. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny side up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. For lunch one day, frankfurters, that's a hot dog, already in their rolls, blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by gradual clearing with a wonderful jello setting in the west. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and sidewalks and lawns. The workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for people's flower gardens. Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worse. Oh boy, here's a newspaper. It says, "Spaghetti ties up town." One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. The next day there was only broccoli all overcooked. And the next day there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day there was pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew up frequently. Awful things are happening. One Tuesday there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds, some without. There was white bread and rye and whole wheat toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could in their backyards. The birds picked at it a bit, but it just stayed there and got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close school that day. Wonder if there's a pancake on our school. Maybe that's why we can't go. Lunch one day brought 15-inch drifts of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomachache. There was an awful salt and pepper wind accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess. There were seeds and pulp everywhere. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there were no more school for children. So a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. The people glued together giant pieces of stale bread, sandwich style with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts for new land. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary houses for themselves in it. The children began school again. The adults all tried to find places to work. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at a supermarket. They found it odd that the food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat had to be cooked, was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made by fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again, and nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remembered his goodnight kiss. Oh, there we are. Remember, this was a pretend story that their grandpa made up to tell them as they were going to bed. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sledding that day, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top of the hill, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. The end. So remember, your job today is to think about how you could change the story at the end. What would happen next? Maybe you could change it completely and something else happens. Maybe it was a real story. You see if you can draw a picture and tell someone at home how you think this story could be different. See you later. Hey, thank you for stopping by. It was great to spend this time with you. So check back because I'll post new things as I can because I have some real thinkers sometimes. In the middle of the night, you never know when I'm going to put up a new video. So please rewatch and have a great time. I'll miss you all. See you soon when we get back to school. See ya.